Long distance information. Get in touch with my Marie. Hey, how you doing? It's your old pal Tom Patrick McAuliffe, man about town, author extraordinaire. Time for another episode here at Tom's Cabin. Got another great show for you this week. Part two, our true crime part two. Going to have a wonderful award-winning author, New York Times bestselling author Michael Balter is going to be here and talk a little bit about true crime books. We also got the latest in book lists, and that's something that's kind of cool. You can just stop the video and look at the list, look at the book covers, and talk about your next book that you're going to read. Yeah. So we're going to have the latest in book lists. Also, I want to point your attention to our videos about Books on the Bay, which is coming up on March the 28th. And we've got some videos of interviews with authors that are going to be there. So check that out in the library. We're going to have that coming up in some episodes in the next week or so. But that's coming up. Circle the date. Going to want to be there March the 28th at Bayside Park in Pensacola. Books on the Bay Part 4. I think this is the fourth one they've had. And we're going to have Tanya, the director of the show, on a special broadcast on March the 5th, I think it is. And she's going to tell us all about the latest stuff for the book festival coming up in late March. So you're going to want to stay tuned for that. We got Books on the Bay. We got some promo videos, brand new promo video on my book, Red Summer, about one of the blackest days in American history. So you stay tuned for that. And the latest jokes and quotes. So stick around and let's take it away. Well, this week you get a twofer. Keeping with our theme of true crime and crime novels, our next guest, we've been really having great guests on the show. Our next guest is Michael Balter. He's an award-winning author whose debut novel, Chasing Money, is a Amazon #1 bestseller. It's won multiple honors, including the Best Indie Book Award for crime thrillers, a Feathered Quill Award for Best Mystery Thriller, and the 2024 Crime Thriller of the Year Award from bestthrillers.com. It's also won the Reader's Favorite Gold Medal for crime fiction, and his sequel, The Vatican Deal, was released in May of last year. A talented and witty storyteller, Michael captivates audiences with tales of his extraordinary life as a German immigrant, a Vietnam War veteran, a Silicon Valley pioneer, and a serial entrepreneur. He now makes his home in beautiful Charlevoix, Michigan, where he is hard at work on the third book in the Marty and Bo thriller series. His debut crime-thrilling novel, Chasing Money, has won 5 gold medals, and it's the story of 2 ordinary men, business partners in a struggling startup, who take money from the wrong investor and wind up crosswise with the Russian mafia. Midwest Book Review called it, quote, exceptionally clever and compelling. In 2025, Michael released a sequel, The Vatican Deal, which also has won a gold medal and is in the running for several other awards. The story is based on Michael's own experiences as an entrepreneur who worked with the Vatican on a licensing deal back in 2004. He's got some fascinating stories to tell. Let's bring him on. How about it? Let's welcome, please. How about it for Michael Balter? Welcome, 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 Michael.
Hi, Tom. Thank you for having me.
How are things in beautiful Charlevoix?
Very cold, very snowy. In fact, I'm looking at the front window and there's a blizzard going on right now as I speak to you.
Wow. So tell me a little bit about how you started. Have you always been a writer?
No, I came to writing actually quite late. I like to think of my my life having three separate careers. I started out of college and went to went into technology, became a technologist for almost 20 years, um, introduced um, a, uh, some new technologies that are now very common today, and I was actually the person who introduced those technologies to the world. Things like video conferencing and voice recognition. So you can blame me for that. Um, so I worked for Intel Corporation, and they came up with all of these technologies in their labs, and then I would be responsible for introducing them. And then I did that for 20 years. I retired. I was fortunate enough to retire early. And that didn't work out very well because it was quite boring and I needed to do something. So I became an entrepreneur. And with my best friend, he and we opened up a private equity firm, and we just kind of took positions in various different startups. We helped a lot of startups, and I did that for another 20 years. That, in fact, became the fuel for many of the stories that I started to write. Then retired from that. By now, I'm almost what, 68,
Oh, you're
something
not
like that.
either.
60.
Are you really?
Yeah. Well, I'm
I
73 now.
I hate you. You look great.
Oh, thank you.
Damn.
So, yeah, so this was about 5 years ago. So call it 67, 68,
Now,
somewhere in there.
before you go forward, let me just mention we have so much in common there because I worked in, and that's how I made my money in Silicon
Okay.
Valley, or what I
Okay.
call Silly Con Valley. And but only in the nonlinear editing, video and audio professional. We'd make these PCI cards that go in a computer and turn them into a 24 track recording studio. I worked for Avid, Pinnacle, nonlinear editing companies, but had
Okay.
have really fond memories. Lived in the Bay Area
Hmm.
for about
We're in the
15
Bay
years.
Area.
San Leandro
Oh, okay.
over in the East Bay.
Yeah, yeah. Okay.
And well, first lived on Anza by Golden Gate Park for about a year,
Wow.
and then we couldn't afford it anymore, so we moved across the bay. But I have real fond memories there, and then you became an entrepreneur, and
Yeah,
that
actually, just to go back to what you were talking about earlier in Silicon Valley, I had never in my young life thought I was going to be a technologist. My college training was in aerospace engineering, aeronautical engineering, and so I was going to build satellites. I wanted to do that, but I was geographically fixed at the time, and it was in Santa Clara, and it was before Silicon Valley became Silicon Valley, and it was nothing but orange groves. And but my university, I was getting my graduate degree at Santa Clara.
okay,
And
yeah,
so I was stuck.
Moffett Field, right?
Yeah, there you go.
That big
And
hangar.
so yeah, and so I ended up interviewing at a couple of small companies. One of them had about, I don't know, 60, 70 employees, and they had a really funky name. I think it was called Apple. Not sure what happened to them. Decided that
Should have
they were
invested
too
back then,
small.
brother.
Yeah, I decided they were too small for me. And then I went and interviewed at another small company called Intel Corporation. This is all before the microprocessor came out and before the PC was born. And so I just ended up boarding an incredibly fast train. That's really what happened. And I was lucky enough to ride that train for 20 years and
Well,
enjoyed it very much.
well, I'm sure you did a lot of writing in your business life and stuff like that. But when did you start to write crime fiction?
Well, so as I said, I became an entrepreneur, did that for about 20 years, and I'd always wanted to write. I knew that if I retired, I would from that, I would still have to do something because I'm just part of my character. I like to always stay busy. And
Yeah. Yep.
yeah, and so what had happened actually was somewhere I've told this story quite a number of times, so I'll go through it very quickly. My good friend and I, we were actually in New York one day. We were raising capital for a startup that we were involved with, and we had spent the whole day talking to money people and trying to raise capital. And on the way to the hotel that night, it was getting dark. And my friend said to me, he said, "Let's walk a little faster because I don't like walking the streets of New York at night." And I was so frustrated because we had not a very successful day. And I said very kind of snarkily in a very kind of cynical way, I said, I said, right now I'm so frustrated. I said, if someone tried to rob us and stick a gun in my face, I'd probably ask him to invest in the company before he pulled the trigger. And and my friend laughed just like you. And when we got back to the hotel, we were sitting in the bar having a couple of scotches, and my friend said to me, he says, that was a really funny line. That would actually make for a great book. That would actually make for a great story. And so we started talking about it. And we spent about an hour or so just kind of chatting about, like, wouldn't it be cool if, like, what would happen if you did this or this happened or that happened, et cetera. And so it started to kind of form in my head, and it stayed there. And that was about 6 or 7 years before I actually did retire. But in those 6 or 7 years, I kept adding to the story. Whenever I had a free moment, I'd just kind of think about it. And long story short, it became my first novel.
Chasing Money, right?
Chasing Money, and about two entrepreneurs who
Bestseller.
take money from the wrong people, and they get into serious trouble because of it. So I wrote the book and had some difficulty getting anyone to pay attention to it because it was my first novel and I had no track record. I'd never written a book before. Took about maybe 2.5 years. And because I started and false start and then have to start it again, et cetera, et cetera. And yeah, and then it came out and it just won all these awards and then became
That's one thing
a
I wanted to say.
bestseller.
I was
Yeah, in fact,
so impressed with
yeah.
how many
In
awards you've won.
Yeah, so in fact, this is my NASCAR version of my book. I have all these stickers. So it won just I was shocked. I was frankly amazed, and it won best crime fiction of the year,
I saw
and
that. And
and
we'll
all
have
kinds of
those
stuff.
awards on the bottom of the screen and such so that people can see that. But before we go, so I want to talk about your other book as well. But let me talk for just a second a little bit about your creative process.
Sure.
Would you say that you are a pantster, just
Hmm.
flying by the seat of your pants at the keyboard,
Hmm.
or a plotter?
So I'm definitely a pantser. Um, uh, but um, there are let's say I'm a pantser conditionally, all right? And the reason I say that is because I always know where the book starts and I always know where I'm taking it. I have no clue about anything in between.
Wow.
So, for example, I just finished my third book. It's at the publishers now. In fact, we were going
Yay.
over cover. We were looking at covers this morning, and we've selected, the cover of the book and all of that. And so it'll come out in early July, according to what they told me. And but even so, with all three books, I knew how it was going to start, and I knew where it was going to end. I knew where the twists were going to be. But all the stuff in between, I just sit down and I just kind of muscle it out. I just kind of muscle my way through. There are many times when the book goes into a direction that I had not planned, and a line of dialogue comes out, and I go, "Oh." Oh,
That's good. Let's keep that.
that's good. But if I do that, that means that, the character is going to have to do this and this, and that happens all the time.
Now, Michael, did you have the same publisher throughout all?
Yes, yes, it's Mission Point Press. They're a publisher in out of Traverse City,
Oh, wow.
and they're wonderful. They're wonderful. Yeah.
And I know you do print books. I read the sample chapter that Amazon Kindle provides and such. We're going to talk a little bit about that. Um, you got a real natural feel, good dialogue. Your dialogue comes across really
Yeah,
well.
I get a lot of compliments for my dialogue. Most people say that's my strongest feature, that I write very realistic dialogue.
But I found it interesting that, unlike one of our other guests, you don't have a background in law enforcement
No,
or
no,
being a detective or anything like that.
no. So actually, it's one of the reasons why it I wanted to write Chasing Money. One of the key themes in the book is that it has that kind of Hitchcockian feel, which is, if you remember Hitchcock, one of his greatest strengths, or one of the things that he always did, is he put innocent guys into very dangerous situations, right? The whole North by Northwest, for example, or The Man That Knew Too Much, or whatever. They all have the same thing. Innocent guy just minding his own business, and all of a sudden he's thrown into this incredible chaos. Um, that's exactly the same thing that happens with Chasing Money. The two main characters are just entrepreneurs. The worst experience they ever had with the police was going 40 through a school zone, right? So so it was okay, and all of a sudden they find themselves hunted by a Russian assassin who wants to kill them, or is threatening to kill them and their families, not just them, their families, if they don't return $10 million and a mysterious painting. And the key is they don't know what he's talking about. I mean, that's kind of the big
Where is
mystery.
perestroika? Where is perestroika when you need it? I mean, so
Exactly. Exactly.
now are all your books you have print books? Are you have audiobooks?
Oh, yes.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah.
So
And
all
ebook.
three books are, well, the third book hasn't come out yet, but it'll be the same. So both Chasing Money and the Vatican Deal are hardback, softback, ebooks, and audiobooks.
What
Yeah.
would you say of those different delivery systems, if you will? Which would you say is the most popular with your readers?
Ebooks by far.
Really?
Yeah, yeah.
Really?
I sell quite a number of softback books, hardbacks as well. But the we did a my wife is my marketing, and she kind of keeps a tally of.
She's great.
Yeah,
I've
she does all
interfaced
that
with
stuff.
her a couple of times. Tell her I
Yeah,
said hello. She's wonderful.
I will do that. I will do that. When we started doing this, she also retired about the same time I did. She's really helpful. She's truly she's my boss. That's how I kind of review. And we cut this deal, which is really great if you retired and you get into this, is that I do all the writing and she does everything else. And as a writer yourself, you know that everything else is a lot. Okay.
Boy, if I could just get that deal with my wife, it would.
Oh, there is, I mean, the marketing, the newsletters, keeping folks informed as to what's happening and when the next book is going to come out and all this other kind of stuff, setting up speaker engagements, yeah, doing, setting up. Yeah, she set up this podcast. She's the one who said, Michael, you got to go and talk to Tom. He's got this podcast, etc. My point is, I don't have to do any of that. She does all that, and it makes my life easy because I just concentrate on the writing.
On the writing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, do you ever and you write at the keyboard as opposed to dictation or
Oh,
anything
yeah,
like
yeah, right at the keyboard. I have a process. So I have to leave the house every morning, and I think a lot of people who had careers, other than writing, have the same, have the kind of the same thing, which is I need to, when I get up, if I don't go through kind of this, you know, get dressed, well, shower, get dressed, and go somewhere, I feel like I'm home on vacation, right? So I need to go somewhere. And I need to leave the house because the house has got too many distractions. And so it's too quiet. And so I go to my favorite coffee shop, which is right downtown Charlevoix. I get to walk there because it's about half a mile, a little over half a mile from my house, and it's right downtown. And it's called Harwood Gold, and they are wonderful. They're absolutely wonderful people. In fact, I'm because I'm there every day. They actually have a they actually put a button on their cash register that says Michael. So because when I walk in, they just hit the Michael button, and it automatically charges because I always get the same thing. It's always my same coffee, et cetera, et cetera. So my point is I go there, and one of the things that makes Harwood Gold so wonderful for me is that if you think about it, other than maybe Starbucks, which we don't have, it's too small a town for that. It's a small resort town in northern Michigan. Um, Most coffee shops or most restaurants, for example, are not going to let some guy come in and sit at a table nursing a cup of coffee for 5, 6, 7, 8 hours,
Signing
right?
books, right?
They want to churn the table, right? They
Right.
want to make money off that table. That's how they make their money.
Yeah.
And Harwood Gold is I'm just very fortunate because they don't make their money churning tables. There's a coffee shop, but they also sell all this other stuff, with the maple syrup stuff, etc. Point is, they let me sit there from 9 o'clock in the morning till 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and I do my writing. And I've
Now,
written all 3 books there. So,
now let's back up for a second. Charlevoix isn't exactly the nerve center of journalism and publishing. How did you wind up there? Are you from Michigan originally?
no, good question. So the Chasing Money was started, and my writing career started in Portland, Oregon. That's where I lived. Intel, that's where I started there with Intel Corporation. I had, well, not started there. I started with Intel in Santa Clara, but then they moved me around. First, they moved me to Michigan, in the Detroit area. That's where I met my wife. This is very early in my career. And we started our family there. And then the company moved us to Portland, Oregon, because they had a large campus there. And that's when I retired the first time. That's when I went off and did the entrepreneurial thing. And so but when the kids were grown and we were empty nesters, and one of the things we had done about 30 years earlier was we bought a summer house in Charlevoix. And the reason was because my wife came from Charlevoix. So her
Oh,
father lived in Charlevoix. In fact, her father was mayor of the town for
oh
many
wow.
years. Okay. And so when she took me to Charlevoix the first time just for vacation, I fell in love with it. And who wouldn't? I mean, if you've
I
never
know.
been to Charlevoix, you've missed something.
Yes, for our viewers, you don't really understand. This is like a picture postcard
Oh,
of of paradise.
yeah. I
For
like to,
about
I tell my friends,
3 months, 3.5 months.
yeah. Well, a little bit more than that actually, but my friends in Portland would always ask me, "Why do you have a summer house in Michigan?" And because Portland weather in the summer is actually quite nice.
Hmm.
And I would say you don't understand. It's like being on the ocean because Lake Michigan, you have the Great Lake effect, which is no different than being on the ocean. And so you don't have bugs, you don't have the mosquitoes, you don't have because there's no standing water. You have this real cool breeze,
Hmm.
and I always tell my friends in Portland, it's a little bit like the Martha's Vineyard of the Midwest. It's frankly, it's
Oh,
quite
yeah,
affluent.
like
There's
that.
lots of boats. It's just it's like I said, it's no different than visiting Martha's Vineyard or Nantucket,
How far
but
are you
it's
from
in the Midwest.
Traverse? How far
Hmm?
are you from Traverse?
45
Traverse.
minute drive. But
Yeah.
maybe an hour's drive,
So
actually.
you fly in and out of Traverse, right?
Yeah, we drive. Yeah, exactly. We fly in and out of Traverse.
All right. I want to ask you a couple quick questions about the crazy publishing business these days.
Yeah,
Um, AI is
yeah,
making big inroads in our industry.
yeah.
AI is a double-edged sword. It has some good positive things like
It does.
mapping the human genome, and
Hmm.
then some not nice things. I mean, some of the
Yes.
garbage that's on Kindle now that's obvious. And I don't know about you, but I can tell it uses words. It keeps talking about sunrises and sunsets, and
Yeah,
it keeps using words like resiliency and tapestry. And I
yeah.
can tell when it's AI. Let me let me ask you: do you think that we differentiate, of course, between generative AI, where I'm going to give it a prompt and it's going to spit out 20,000 words, and assisted AI, like Grammarly, helping us with grammar, spelling, like that.
Mhm.
Um, if an author uses AI for generative work, do you think he or she should be required to let the reader know?
I don't know if they should be required. I feel bad for them because I think they're not really um, they're not really true to their craft if they use AI to actually generate literature. That's just my personal opinion. Uh, I use AI, but only for grammatical purposes. So, for example, I have Grammarly on my laptop. Most people do, and it corrects sentences. Even my email sentences, it corrects everything that I write. Okay, it gives me the red, the little red underline if it's misspelled, and sometimes it gives me the little blue underline if the sentence is inarticulate or whatever. So I have that. I'm not going to deny that. But it doesn't create the literature. It doesn't create the story. So I do that, and if I see, and if it prompts me and says, Michael, you wrote this, and I'll look at it and I'll say, well, yeah, it's supposed to be that way because it's dialogue or whatever, then I don't make any changes. And on the other hand, if I'm writing and it says, this sentence is the same sentence, but you should probably, change it a couple of words here or there or whatever. I have no issues with that. That I don't find that to be, I think that's kind of what an editor would do anyways. So
As a lifelong technologist, um, where do you think it's going? AI
that's a really
technology.
I worry about it. I think that we have I it's so we know already that there are hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of people who they retire and they think they've got a story and they've got they're going to write their life story because they've
Yes.
lived this incredible life, right? And so they want to do a bio on their story
And
and
it's
their
so
family.
easy. It's so easy, right?
And yeah, and frankly, you're going to see just a flood of because now people who really could never put a story together because they simply didn't have the skill or the talent or the patience um, are now going to be able to do that. What that will mean to the publishing world, I don't know. It'll probably fragment the market even more than it already is. I think that's one of the big challenges that you have with the book industry today. It's that it's so fragmented that you find your niche audience and you find your little kind of fan base, and then you just have to kind of like figure out how to grow that. But with the thousands and thousands of books that come out every month, okay, I mean, if you really think about it, there are,
10,000 a
because
month,
there
I think it is. 10,000 a month, I
I
think.
believe that's probably true. And when you think that the reading population is actually shrinking, okay, that's a fact. And there are fewer men reading now than ever before.
Hmm.
The largest percentage of readers are in fact women. Um, so you have this, if you're writing crime fiction, in my case, where the two protagonists are men, and a good portion of the other characters are also men. I'm looking at a shrinking market, um, and I have no idea what's going to happen in the future when everyone uses, or some, not everyone, that's a silly thing to say, but certainly a large number of people are going to use AI, which will, I think, make the overall market even more, will just flood even more into the
Did
market.
did you look at self-publishing before you landed a deal with a publisher?
No, so I, um, so I'll tell you the story about how I got published. I went to so Mission Point Press is a hybrid publisher, right? So they do traditional publishing, um, and but they don't pay me up front or anything like that. So that's the traditional publisher. So you have the self-publishing or the independent publishing world, then you have the middle ground, which is a hybrid publisher, and then you have the traditional publishing. So I finished Chasing Money and I sent it out to, I don't know, 50, 60, 70 different, query letters or applications to various different agents. You can't really get into the publisher. You have to go find an agent, right? It's the agent who now gets you into the publisher. And that didn't, I didn't even get a response. I think out of 50 or 60 query letters or whatever, I got maybe one response. And I tried whatever I could. I went to this one forum where I had a chance to talk to a bunch of agents for 10, you have like 10 minutes to sit,
Yes, yes.
and it's frankly, to be very honest with you, I'll just be very frank with you. I found the entire process to be kind of somewhat humiliating and kind of distasteful. Um, and maybe that's because I'm not a young, hungry, eager writer. I went through 40 years of another career and I was very successful. I retired the first time at 47. So I didn't write a book because I needed fame or money. I wrote a book because I wanted to, right? And so now to go through kind of this this kind of humbling thing that where you are begging some guy who looks like they're 28 years old and, and just barely out of college, and and I'm like begging this guy to pay attention to me and trying to get him to look at my book. I don't know, I didn't like it.
So
And
so why do it?
well, my point is I stopped.
It's the story, isn't it?
I stopped and I started writing my second book. And I said, you know what? I told my wife, I said, you know what? I said, I guess this is just going to be a hobby, and I'm going to write books for my family and my friends, and I'll, and that's it.
But
And so I
it's
put,
I mean, you've made your money in your life already, so it wasn't about the
yeah,
money. It's
yeah,
about putting those stories out into the world, right?
right, exactly. So I put it away in a kind of a, it just sat in a file for, oh, I don't know, maybe I want to say 6 months. And what happened was that, true story. What happened was that I knew an old friend, and we hadn't stayed in touch at all. She was a lady who I knew from my old Intel days, but I had heard that she lived in Traverse City and that she married a very successful and famous author, an author by the name of Doug Stanton, who is great author, very famous, does a lot of. I mean, he wrote In Harm's Way, for example. He wrote 12 Strong, which was made into a movie, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Plus, she also was. I'm not sure if she runs it or if she's just associated with it, but she's very involved in the Writers Forum out of Traverse City, which is a
Yes.
national forum.
I went there
Okay,
2 years ago.
and
Yep.
yeah. And so, long story short, I went to see her and caught up with her and we had a nice chat. Never talked to her about the book. And because I didn't want it to look like, that's why I'm talking to her. And so and as we were saying goodbye and I was ready to leave, I said, "Listen," I said, I'd like to ask you a favor." And she said, "What is it?" And I said, I did what every retired guy does, and I went and wrote a book. And I would love it if you would like look at it and tell me if it's any good or not, right? And she said no. And I went, oh, I'm sorry. Did I offend you? And she said, oh no. She said you didn't. She said, but she said, she said I'm married to Doug Stanton, and I'm involved with the Writers Forum. She said if I said yes to everybody who asked me to read their novel or their manuscript, that's all I'd be doing all day long. I said, I totally understand. I get it. I totally understand.
Your camera's slipping a
And I
little bit.
left. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, there you
How's
go.
that?
Better. Down a little bit. Down. There we go.
Oh,
Perfect.
there you go. Yeah. Actually, let me get rid of, if I lose you, there's a thing here that I want to get rid of. Ah, that's okay. This line came across my little screen, and so I couldn't see myself anymore.
Oh,
And I didn't know if I hit the X button, if I did that, I don't know if I'd kill the whole call. So anyway, now I can see myself. Okay, so now we're good.
well, at
Anyways,
least she was honest with you, right? She was honest and
yeah, yeah, and
straightforward, and I kind of
yeah.
like that.
Well, I left my little thumb drive that had the manuscript on it on her dining room table.
Just by mistake, right? It just-
So, so about 3 or 4 days later, I get an email from her, and she said, "Michael, I know what you did," and I looked at it. I looked at it,
Smart.
it's great, it's wonderful, and I'll help you get it published. And then she introduced me to Doug Weaver, who was or is, well, he's retired now, but he was the president of Mission Point Press. And they looked at it, they read it, they decided that they wanted to publish it, and
Well,
out
see,
came Chasing Money.
that's the man upstairs working. I'm not a big religious guy, but that's, those things happen for a reason, and you're blessing the world with your talent and your stories, and I can't wait to read the second one. Um, we're unfortunately out of time. When the new book comes out, will you come back and talk with us about it?
Oh, absolutely,
We'd,
absolutely,
we'd love it.
yes,
And I always end my interviews with this one question.
yeah.
If there was one thing that you wish readers knew about your books, what would it be?
If there was something um, that they will enjoy reading it. So it's one of the things that there's so many books out there, and if there's anything that I want readers to know is that, well, I'm sorry, that and the fact that about 50% of the material in the book itself actually is real. It happened to me, or it happened to a friend of mine, or what have you. I use a lot of my personal experiences in the book itself. I did that with Chasing Money. The second book is called The Vatican Deal. I worked with the Vatican for quite a number of years. And so not everything, a very large percentage of the things that happen in these books actually either happened to me or my friends. Now, I was never threatened by a Russian assassin. So that part is fictional, but everything else is actually partly true.
The story is not over yet, Michael.
Yes.
That guy might be coming to see you with the bottle of Smirnoff. Um, so where can they find you? You have a website,
I do. It's
Amazon, Kindle.
Yeah, so I'm on Amazon, I'm on Kindle, I'm on Barnes and Noble. I'm everywhere books are sold, online certainly. And I have a website, mbalter.com. And so yeah, so and I have newsletters, and I have all the things that most authors have. And you can find me that way.
And what's the name of the new book that comes out in July?
That one is called Dead Exit.
And will it
So,
be available for pre-order?
oh
Can they
yes,
order
it'll
it
be
now?
available. I would think that they generally do that about 30 to 40 days before. It's expected to come out first week in July. So make that then sometime in June, early June. It's probably available for pre-order.
Well, Mr. Michael Balter, thank you so much for coming by. I hope you come back and see us soon with the new book. And thanks so much. I appreciate it.
Well, thank you for having me. I really appreciate it. And yes, I'm absolutely eager to come back.
From the sea, from the air, from the land, the latest in news and perspectives on books and music here at Tom's Cabin. I've been hard at work in the lab working on some promo videos. Check out some hot new books here at Tom's Cabin. Well, it's a really rough time in our country today. But put on your laughing hat. It's time for the jokes of the week. Hey, thanks so much for coming by. I really, really appreciate it. Please like and subscribe and tell your friends and join us every week on Saturday at high noon, and we'll talk about our passion for books. Hey, don't forget to check out our library. We almost have 50 shows now, lots of great interviews, lots of great information and reviews about books. And check it out in the library here at Tom's Cabin. We would absolutely love to hear from you. Have you found a new book that you love? Got some suggestions for the show? Got some stuff we should cover? We'd love to hear from you. Just give us an email, bookinfo@nextstopparadise.com. We look forward to hearing from you. Thanks so much. Thanks again. Books and you make it a great day.